Okay, so another tale from the allotment then. I'm going to tell you about my first involvement in a fail to stop pursuit, as they call it nowadays. It just happened way back when I was probably still in probation. Again, I was working nights and as an observer in a patrol car, sitting in the passenger seat. And we were up in Llamarlin area, not far from Llanfechain, and we came up behind an old van. Can't remember the make or anything like that, but it was an old van. And this van was all over the place. He was only doing about 20 mile an hour, but was using the verges on both sides of the road, almost like bumper lanes in a bowling alley, swerving all over the road. So we had the headlights on full beam, put the blue lights on, and made no difference to him whatsoever. Carried on and going, one side to the other, carried on, and put the sirens on. It seemed to wake him up a little bit. And we could see him looking through the back window of the van to the driver's seat, and we could actually see him drinking out of some sort of bottle as he was driving down the road. Anyway, he sped up to probably about 30-40 mile an hour. As I say, he didn't go 45 all the way, and we went through Llanfechain heading towards Llanfechain, all over the place, failing to stop. So I was on the radio doing a bit of a commentary where we were and what we were doing. And it was in the days when we didn't have to worry too much if we were involved in a chase. We were involved in a chase, we never got called off or anything. It was down to us to decide what to do. And so we followed this car now our van down to Llanfechain and into the village of Llanfechain, turned left through the village of Llanfechain, and at the far end he turned right over the river bridge towards Four Crosses. We were still doing about 35-40 mile an hour. He was all over the place. We could hear now cars from all over the place coming out to our assistance as such. It was on the days that we were the only patrol car working that night, so the patrol car from Llandrinder was making way towards Newtown, and the Brecon car was coming up, and we could hear all these things going on. And say, we weren't going fast. It was a nice, easy pursuit as such. But he was just all over the place. Luckily enough, there's very little traffic on the road at the time. And anyway, we were heading towards Four Crosses. We came to the little humpback bridge over the canal, and he actually took off there. It was the first time I've seen a vehicle from the underside as he took off. How he took off, I have no idea. He didn't seem to be going that quick anyway. Anyway, we got to Four Crosses before the roundabout was built, and he turned right and headed towards Welshpool. Nice easy now, we have cars coming from Welshpool towards us. We should be able to sort this out. And then within about a mile or so, we turned back left again towards Llandrinio. Still only doing about 45 mile an hour, but we couldn't get past him. He was all over the place, all over. And he was drinking, he was throwing bottles at us as we were going along in the pursuit. And anyway, went through Llandrinio and then turned right then into Back Lane, I think it's Back Lane, down towards Buttington. So he carried on down this lane towards Buttington, and then he turned left again and ended up in Criggan Quarry, of all places. And that was his undoing, really. Once he got into the quarry, he bogged himself down in this quagmire of, I don't know, dust and God knows what. It looked like runny cement, runny concrete. He was in about 8 to 9 inches deep of this, and the van stopped. So we jumped out, and we were halfway up to our knees in this stuff, ran to the door and yanked the door open, and he had this dog in there, was going absolutely berserk, but he wouldn't let go. Not the dog now, the driver wouldn't let go of the steering wheel, and he was lashing out with his feet and everything, and we had a hell of a job to try and get hold of him. Anyway, one of our colleagues from Welshpool turned up as well, and he sort of pulled me out the way, because he'd been in the job a lot longer than me. Anyway, this bloke now lashed out, and he caught him right smack in the crown jewels. Doubled him up, and he fell back into this quagmire of stuff, got covered in it, and anyway, he stood back up and he took out his baton, and at the time we only had batons, we didn't have handcuffs or anything in those days. We had a little wooden baton, and I've never seen anybody hit by a baton, but he lashed out at this bloke's leg and caught him a cracker across the top of the thigh. Whack! As if you imagine it in a lump of beef or something like that with a big stick, and you understand what the sound is like. But it didn't seem to stop him at all, you know. We still carried on fighting with him, trying to get him out. Anyway, eventually we got him out. And he was covered in this concrete stuff. I was covered in, we were all covered in this bloody muck. And there's no way he was going to go in a patrol car. There's no way he was going in the back of a patrol car covered like that. So he got put in the back of one of the beat cars in Wellspool beat cars. And as he was being put out in the back of that, he lashed out again and took out the side window of the beat car. So then we had to put him in a van, and we had a metro van. That was it, a metro van. So we had to clear everything out the back of the metro van with him still struggling and fighting. We managed to get some handcuffs on him, and all. We had to wind a key in to tighten them up. They weren't ratchet handcuffs or anything in those days. And we got the handcuffs on him, emptied the back of the metro van and chucked him in there. And I had to go in the back with him because I was the arresting officer, and I had to go back there to try and control him. So I was fighting with him, even though he was handcuffed. We were fighting all the way back to Wellspool Police Station out in the back of this metro van. And by the time I got there, I'd had enough. You know, the bloke was a lunatic. Anyway, we got out. They opened the door, and I managed to get out. And it took 4 of us then to carry him back into the station. He was handcuffed behind his back. So 2 of us had an arm each, and 2 of us had two in the back holding a foot. So we carried him in suspended by his arms and his feet into the station. And the inspector had arrived by then. And as he walked in, I just said to the inspector, yeah, he wants to give a breath test. But he didn't. We put him into the cell. There's no way he was going to give anything. We went through the protocol anyway, and no, he wasn't going to give anything. All he was doing is effing and blinding. And anyway, he was in a hell of a state. He was covered in this muck and all, like the rest of us. Anyway, he was put in a cell, and he was looked after in the cell for the night. And we spent the rest of the night cleaning the cars and cleaning them back out the back of this metro, and bringing the car in, the smashed window and all the rest of it. Anyway. I did all the paperwork necessary, and he was going to be sorted out in the morning. It must have been a Sunday night, because then on a Monday I came back in. Next day I came back in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was still in the cell then. And apparently the decision had been made by the sergeant and the inspector that he was going to get taken to court that day, just before CPS time. So it was my job then to take him into court. So I went to get hold of him, and he was supposed to be in court 3 or 4 o'clock in Newtown. Anyway, I went to get him, and we didn't have showers in the police station in those days. Most of us didn't have a shower at home anyway, but he hadn't had a shower. And when I went to see him, half his head, so the right hand side of his head, was as if he'd been submerged in this stuff in a quarry, and he was lying there like this. So this side he was crusted over with like this cement dust all down his side, and his clothes are covered, and he had blood dried in here, and you know, he was in a hell of a state. And so we went to pick him up as such and take him away, and he couldn't walk. His right leg, where he'd been hit by the baton, wouldn't work. So we took his trousers off, and he had the biggest, massive bruise across the top of his thigh that you could ever imagine. It was like somebody, I don't know, dropped a bottle of ketchup across there and mashed it in, and it was purple and bright red, and he was a hell of a state in his legs. No wonder he couldn't walk properly. Anyway, we put him in the back of a van, and we took him down to Newtown court. And at the time, the court was down by the old police station in Newtown. And you had to go up a flight of, I don't know, 20 steps, stairs to get up to the court. So we almost had to carry him up, and we sat him down. The court was running at the time. So we sat him on the back seat, because there was nowhere to hold prisoners in those days. So we sat him in one of the back seats in the court, and they dealt with whatever they were dealing with. And then it came to us, and the sergeant was going through all the paperwork with the court, and the court wanted him to come down to the front. So we stood him up, and he tried to walk, and he couldn't really walk. So the magistrate, seeing what he was like, so sit down where you are, sit where you are. So we sat him down, and they actually remanded him in custody. Because of failure to stop, dangerous driving, criminal damage to the car, etc., etc., etc. And they remanded him in custody for a week, and we had to take him to Shrewsbury Prison as he was. I can't remember what happened to him in the end. I can't remember. He obviously came back to court and then got convicted of failing to give a breath test, failing to stop, and all the rest of it. He probably had a long list of offences. But he spent at least a week in prison anyway. But that was my first ever pursuit. But it wasn't a pursuit that you see on the TV nowadays, you know, 100 mile an hour plus. And all lots of stuff. It was 45 mile an hour at the most, and it was bizarre, but it's one of the reasons why I went onto traffic in the end, because much more exciting being a traffic officer than a CID officer sitting in an office just doing paperwork and occasionally arresting somebody now and again. You know, traffic, you'd go out there and you'd find work, and I got involved in quite a few chases in my time, but it changed from those days where we were allowed to do stuff to people in headquarters deciding whether or not it was safe to do and whether we should pursue or not. But hey ho, they were the old days. Welcome back then to another Tales from the Allotment. Please like and subscribe and hit that little bell. It boosts the channel. Well, it's Sunday morning, and we've just had 2 days of horrendous wind. It's still blowing now, but nothing like it has been the last couple of days. But everything seems to have survived here in the allotment anyway. And I've had delivery of some of my plants that I've ordered months ago. I've had 21 Brussels sprout plants and some onions, so that's my job today. I'm going to be planting those, and I'll just show you my plants before I put them in. So here they are, my little Brussels sprout plants, and my spring onions. There's white and red ones there. Normally I'd have planted those by seed, but didn't get a chance to get any. So that's my job this morning, and the Brussels sprouts are going to go here. There's not enough room really to put them all in, but I'm going to, and I'm going to support them as well. Last time I had sprouts here, they all got twisted around and destroyed by the wind, so I'll put some support up first before I do anything with them. So that's my morning job, as I said. So that's the sprouts in, all supported apart from 3 of them. I will be supported once they start growing. I'll give them a bit of a watering and see how they go. If I eat all these, I start looking like a sprout, but they're one of my favourite vegetables, and we'll let them have a couple of frosts before we start picking. They're always a lot sweeter once they've had a frost. So there we are then. That's the end of another tale from the allotment. I'll see you all again soon, and take care, stay safe.